Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Following the Signs. I am your host, Mr. Lucky, and I will be walking you through following the signs today. I'm sure you will find this very interesting, so if you could just sit tight and hold to your horses and watch, and I will begin. So, Following the Signs, for those who have never heard of this organization before, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's focused on strengthening communities throughout the city, throughout the country, as a matter of fact. And our mission is to make the necessary changes that occur from social difficulties. And we all have them. So maybe I'll be able to suggest something to you that will benefit you in some way or another. So today we're asking a question, and maybe you have the answer. If you don't, I will explain it to you. The question is, we're talking about depression. That is the subject. And the question is, are herbs the best way to treat depression? We know how depression is rampant through our communities, and we see that most cases are end tragically when it comes to people that are in the position of being depressed. So this is one of the things that we need to try and change. So following the signs is one of the answers to the solution, the cure, to the profit that happens when we succeed in doing something to curb a situation. And the curbing we're trying to curb is depression. So we don't know what is depression. We need to know what it is, and we can identify it. So what depression really boils down to, it's a situation with our mental and emotional stability. 1 in 5 people in America suffer from depression. Overall, let's say 5% of all of us in this country, in some form or another, have a problem with depression. Some of us have the ability to overcome it. We have ways of entertaining ourselves and making us see things differently. And usually our neurotransmitters kick in, and that gives us a way of dealing with it. And we move on, no problem. Then there's another group of us that find it difficult to move on. And so these are the people that we're most concerned with, people who have a problem with moving on when faced with social difficulties. So what does depression do to us? Simply put, depression tends to keep us away from the solution when it comes to any type of situation that we encounter. We could see that these solutions may be easy to deal with, but in a tranquil, quiet place, a person that has a depression will only find it's more difficult to deal with. They won't see the tranquility of where they are. They won't be able to visualize it. So that's one of the ways that we really need to look out for people with depression. We have to understand that we have to practice patience in dealing with them, because they're not able to transmit that they won't be able to come to a sensible agreement, a sensible understanding, or a sensible way of dealing with a situation. Then we know there's a problem. So what it really breaks down to, what breaks down to is it's a mood disorder. And I guess we all know that. And we also know that when we have a mood disorder, we're in a position of dejection, probably. Definitely, we feel undesired. We feel unwanted. We feel unneeded. So how many times does that happen in a day? To a depressed person, or to a normal person, it may happen 5, 6, 7 times. And it just comes and goes. But to a depressed person, it happens once and then it gets worse. So it's definitely a situation that we need to understand more. We need to deal with. We need to get our arms around it. We need to hold on to it. All right, so we have to understand something here, that if we don't deal with depression in our neighborhoods, not only is it going to be bad for the person, but it's also going to be bad for our community. And so now we break it down. one more time. We could break it down to simply what is the proper way of seeing a person that's depressed? In other words, how do we become aware of a person that's depressed? So what do we look for when we look at a person that may have a problem with that? So let's say one of the things that we actually look for when we deal with a depressed person is the way that they see themselves. A lot of them are always unhappy. One of the symptoms. Another one of the symptoms is a loss of interest. So I know people that, when we see them, they talk real nice and they talk real smart, and then they give us a solution to our problem, which way to go, how we can get help. But when we deal with a depressed person, we find that there's a lack of interest. There's a lack of interest in life. There's a lack of interest in everything that they see in themselves. They may always want to sit at home. That's a definite sign. They may also feel unhappy all the time. This also leads to physical problems that deal with their health, and that it's not going to end easy for that. So let's move on. We know a depressed person now when we see one. We know what depression is. We have the definition. We know how a depressed person's brain functions. So now we see these things. So where does that lead us to? That leads us to what we can do about it. How can we find the solution to the problem? So let's see. I knew a depressed girl one time. I didn't know she was a depressed girl. I just knew a young lady. And she would always come over and ask for something that I had. Maybe it was sugar, bread, whatever. But every time she came, she never smiled. And I thought that was peculiar because I would crack a joke. But she never smiled. She would just walk up and stare me in the face, ask for something, and then turn around after I gave it to her and just walk away. In most cases, wouldn't even say bye. So that stayed in my mind, and I wanted to look and find what the problem was with her. So one day I went over, and she came by, and I went over, and I asked her, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, Mr. Lucky, I just feel real bad." Well, that's understandable. So I took myself out of the position that I was in. So I've been doing this thing for such a long time. I thought I would just get down and see if I could understand a person on a one-on-one basis. And as they talked to me and we proceeded into the conversation and getting deeper, they felt a delight in being able to share that information with me. I saw them open up, and I saw how they wanted to respond and how they did respond. It was in a very, very positive way. And then, just like that, they turned around and everything changed. The whole face structure changed. It went from a smile to a frown. And I couldn't find a way to get back into that mind and get back to them to talk to me. I thought that was strange. So I went up and I hugged her and told her I thought she was a good person, and that's how it ended. But just for that one moment of dealing with the person that had a depression problem, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing. And I know there's people out here now that can, probably the sound of my voice, can hear, and they know what I'm saying. This has probably happened with them as well. I had a neighbor guy that loved to play basketball, and he would always go. Now this was when he was younger. As he got older, I knew he had a love for basketball, but as he got older, he stopped wanting to go to play. He would just sit on the porch, and he would just relax and just sit there. Either his face was in his hand or his head was down. And I never could understand what the problem was with him. But this is what happens when you deal with people that's depressed. They're always looked that way. They're always upset about it. I also see it when I walk down the street. I see people walking down streets that's abandoned, that people that's walking down streets where there's a lot of no activity, there's no smiles. Just continual walking and continual staring. And when you speak to them, sometimes they barely want to talk. These people are in a situation of mass depression. And our community right now is plagued by that. So that's what made me start following the signs, this nonprofit organization. And it's to reach out to those people. Those people are so lost that they're invisible to the naked eye, to people who are just riding by. They see them as just a group of people walking. They don't seem to understand, and they probably don't get it that they're not there. The solution to their problem is not there in their head while they're walking. There is no solution, as a matter of fact. There's just a form of sadness. And this rocks our community because now, we look at crime, we look at incarceration, we see violence, we see suicide. This is the result. And our community deserves better. And we have to fight for that. So I got down to it and I thought I'd start this nonprofit and I'd see if we can do something about this naturally. So the question I started off with was, are herbs the best way to deal with depression? I found that lavender is one of the herbs that I'm so interested in because it's a unique herb in itself. We know our lavender, the color of lavender is purple, and it is a soft, beautiful plant. Just walking by a shrub of lavender, we would be amazed by what we see. We would never think that that plant could make a difference in our community, but it would. We see that not just lavender, which is what I'm speaking on today. Most essential oils, or most essential plants, oils come from plants. They all add to our nutritional base and to our mental stability. And that's what we found out to be true with lavender. So let's move on to lavender. What happens when we use lavender? That's an interesting question. And a lot of people don't understand it, and I didn't understand it either. But now I have a grip on it. And I've been working very hard digging into the ways to grow lavender in our community, in our soils, to be able to construct a base for soaps, for different methods that we use lavender for. I've also understood that in drinking the lavender tea, it's very, very, very essential when it comes to the lavender. Inhaling, ingestion is very, very instrumental in curing lavender. The question is, where is it? Since depression is such a problem in our community, why is there not more lavender? And why is it that so many people who are depressed, who don't feel any type of way about doing anything to help themselves, why aren't we getting this information to them? I think it's very important that following the signs steps forward and makes it happen. So this is what we've been doing. We've been constructing a plan, a program that could bring not just lavender, but most essential oils in our community and make it readily available to the people. They need it. It's a life-saving community need. So, where does following the signs find lavender? Okay. Well, there's only one place. There's two places. You can either buy it or you can grow it yourself. Lavender flourishes in Ohio. It just takes root and it grows very well. So what we are doing is we're growing lavender now, and we're getting up enough So we're starting to spread. It's getting a lot more better. We had a little difficulty at first. We needed to find what type of pots that we were going to put this in and how we were going to arrange it, right? So we found that way. We got that together. We came up with a way of just, we have separate pots that we use, and we make sure that each individual seedling is placed in its proper position, in the proper depth, and it's been working out fine. So we're expanding. Um, we're seeing that our method of dealing with this is a medical situation, and it's a scientific situation, and it's scientific. And let's explain scientific. Scientific is when you use herbs in a manner of say generic or pill form. Then they turn it into scientific, but just in this natural form. What we're trying to do with this herb and these oils is to deal with the neurotransmitters. Now, that's a big word. A lot of people may not understand what neurotransmitters are, right? In our brains, there are neurotransmitters. What they do is they drive oils, or they'll drive nutrients, they'll drive these into our brains, and that would give that brain, what it does is it covers a gap. See, it's hard just because, let's see if I can explain it this way. In your mind, in your brain is connected in transmitters, but there's a gap between there, and there needs to be fire between that gap. So what we do when we deal with essential oils is we feel that. Temporarily, we feel that gap, which allows us to feel something, which allows us to get us out of a mood. And that's what lavender, the importance of lavender is, how it goes into those neurotransmitters and how it goes into the brain and actually calms the brain. It calms nervousness in the brain. And this is not something new. This has been going on since the beginning of time. We have always used it, but we need to make it more available. We need to make it more available to the people. We need to make the people understand it and become aware of it. We need to make them become aware of lavender, lavender, lavender. That's the word of the day, lavender. The more we find it, the more we can use it. The more we grow it, the more we need it. Lavender, to deal with that brain, that mind. We need to understand that everything we eat and everything we drink doesn't always do for us what we need done. We have to add things that are different and difficult to find. And since no one in the community cares about themselves because they don't know, let's change that. Other people aren't caring enough about them because the knowledge is not there. What we do with following the signs is we educate. We send pamphlets out. We educate people to what lavender is and what it's for. Not only do following the signs want to develop it and use it as a cure, but also we want everyone in the community to grow it. We want everyone in the community to be a part of it. We want it on every table. We want it in every house. We want it on, we want to make lavender hats, because just to inhale it is a cure. If you had a belt, if we could entwine it, it's a cure. The fragrance of lavender should be in our clothes. It should be one of the essential smells that we have when we are in a mood disorder change, when we feel different, when we feel difficult. This is knowledge that we need. This isn't the knowledge that following the signs is designed and put together and organized to do. And we're hell-bent on doing that. We're making the changes today that needs to be made in the community. We can deal with treatment and we can deal with a possible cure with herbs. But if we don't understand that collectively we're stronger when it comes to our herbs, when it comes to our lives, when it comes to our conditions. If we don't understand that the similarities that we have is what bridges the gaps in our personalities, that no one is different. Everyone is the same. And we need to understand that and understand it in the form that as one, we think collectively. Everyone feels a loneliness. Everyone experiences fear. All of us. No one's separate from that. Everyone seeks happiness. All of us. When we start thinking that we're thinking something different than a person that's sitting across from us, now we have a problem. Now we're going to go into the form of depressions because we're not understanding how our similarities are. We all need to come together and join in with following the signs. Because if we can find one leader, then we won't make another mistake. We can always blame it on the organization. We can always say, well, you didn't lead us right. But when we know we're doing something right, when we know we have an organization that can make this change happen, when we know that, then no one's going to go wrong. No one's going to feel outcast. No one's going to be left out. Our similarities are what binds us together. And we're all dealing with mental illness out here. We're all dealing with mental stress. We all need essential help. And we need it from our herbs. So actually, that's what they're actually here for. And following the signs is not the only one. There's organizations that understand what's going on, but they don't have the intensity that following the signs has. And they can't reach the people. They're not trying in the way that following the signs organization is going after the situation. Following the signs plans on nipping this problem in the bud. It plans on making the change the solution. And in the long run, the community is going to feel much more safe. The violence will be much less often. The suicide rate will dramatically go down. You know, in our community, we need to love one another. That was community was all about. Community has always been about brotherly love. And that's okay. But we need to understand a lot of things out here. And it's difficult for us to find what our truths are. But they're here. Our truths are here. And they're here to be found, discovered, and to be used. And that's what following the signs does. So let's see. Let me give you a list of some of the situations that can happen when we use our techniques at following the signs. There's soaps. We wash our bodies. Our pores are open. Not only does lavender go inside and deal with our bodies as far as our moods are concerned and our brain, but it also cleanses the body. And that's very important. In cleansing the body, the atmosphere is going to change. Your atmosphere is going to change. You know how you feel when you're clean? But just think when you're clean on the outside and clean on the inside. Just think when you're clean on the outside, you know how it feels. Well, that's how a depressed person feels. That's why most depressed people don't bathe. They feel no need to that. It doesn't excite them to be clean. But just imagine if we change that. Just imagine in this world, in our community, the change that happens when a person that's depressed goes in the bathroom and just stays there. And when they come out, they're totally different. They feel 100% better. They go out and they talk to people. They let them know what their problems are. These are the benefits of what the work that following the signs is doing can occur. Anyone that doesn't want to see that happen, then I'm not sure if they need to be in our community. Because this is where we are right now. There's a lot of things happening now. And following the signs wants to be step by step with every step that they make to increase the level of understanding and awareness in our people, in our community, to be able to let our community know that we're standing by them 100%. We want to grow the largest lavender crop in the state of Ohio. We want to pass in every depressed area. And it's easy. We have the statistics. We know where they are. Every depressed area gets free lavender essentials. Free. And we want to give it to them on a weekly basis. We don't want to let them run out of it. Even if someone runs out of regular soap, they can always go in there and get that lavender soap and feel 100% better. So now we look at that. So what? The stores make more money. The people come out and do more homes. They want to buy a bigger home. They want to buy a better home. So the economy now increases. There's more love out here. So we're looking at more marriages. We're looking at more men and women relationships. I mean, and it can be women and women too. It's just more relationships. Okay. When we find that when we use lavender in our bedrooms, when we sleep, if we wash our sheets and our blankets in lavender, we tend to find that there's love there. There's a spirit of love in lavender. And that love not only comes in the form of relationships, but in the love that it gives our inner bodies. And it's a welcome love. So it's not a runaway type of thing. It's a stay in thing, right? I think if the people who can hear my voice is listening, they would give me a call and say, Mr. Lucky, I understand what you're talking about. I'd love to see this happen. How can I help? Because we need help. This community of ours need help. Our children are getting more out of control. They seem to be able to find it necessary to not give to one another what's needed to be given. And that's a situation that we can cure. It's a situation in our community that every child needs to talk about it. Every child needs to grow up saying how they had the smell of lavender in their homes and how it helped them, and how now that they're grown, they walk with that lavender smell all the time, everywhere they go. That's where we are. We're at a cure moment now. And our similarities, again, at this moment of curing with lavender, those similarities will bring us together. If all of us understand and are aware of the depression that's in our community, and we're all aware of how lavender can help that depression in our community, that's going to bridge us all together to be one with it. Because whether they like it or not, there's going to be another essential oil after lavender that, following the signs, is going to get out here to just back that up. Because if you can't go to the left and you go to the right, the left and the right can be the same, can be the right direction. There's no right or wrong here. There's only right on right. So this is what my message is to you today. And I want you to understand that. So in closing, am I at the closing point here? So in closing, I'd just like to get one thing out to you guys. And it's simply this. There's one important point, and that is that our success in following the signs in our community and in life hinges on the winning and the losing of what we're doing. We tend to believe that our community will make us better people and make us happier. But we are learning that that is not the role of the community. We make ourselves better, and our community benefits from this. Right now, following the signs is only into making ourselves better. We're doing that every day, every way, and we ask for you to join us if you can. I am Mr. Lucky. I am the CEO of Following the Signs. I can be reached at 216-924-8834. I also can be reached online at followingthesigns.org, followingthesigns@yahoo.com. These are the methods that we can put into effect to start making changes in our community immediately. What we need to realize is something that is a trap for us. It's over. So I'd like to now say thank you for listening, and I'll see you again. And I hope you've gained something from this because I have. It's been a wonderful experience. I will talk to you later. Mr. Lucky has left the building. Thank you.